This is Edwin.
This is Isaac.
This is Anthony.
And this is Stephanie. Welcome to our podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about how to prepare for a natural disaster. I think that goes in pretty well with the whole situation that we've got going on right now with Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma coming up. So pretty much the foodstuffs that you should have on hand prior to a situation like this, and ways that you can be safe when a natural disaster does occur.
Yeah, and that is super important because a lot of people reach out and they run out for like necessities like gas, and they run out and get ice and things like that, but they forget the basics. You still need to eat when this happens. Your pets need to eat. If you've got kids, they've got to eat. So you've got to be 10 steps ahead of what could possibly go wrong.
And you don't have to be a doomsday prepper, like that's not what we're saying, but there are things that you should have in your pantry just in case. I mean, just in normal situations. What if somebody were to hit a transformer outside of your house and you're going to be out of power for 2 days? Pretty much just to have something that you can utilize and still eat and survive versus putting yourself into a situation where you may be starving and may end up harming yourself in the long run.
And other times it's not just about the food that you have, but we'll also talk about preventing spoilage, how to preserve your food for as long as possible so that it doesn't go bad and you end up harming yourself by having food that could have either been exposed to outside contaminants during this situation or it just going bad from poor temperature control.
So to kind of touch on the types of foods and things that you should have, so pretty much in terms of long-lasting foods, a good option would definitely be, Isaac had brought this up earlier when we were talking about this prior to actually recording, is granola. Granola is a really good food item to keep in your pantry just because it does keep, and you do get a lot more nutrients from that than versus like cereals and things like that.
Yeah, also, just real quick, I have had a lot of military clients, and they said that when they've gone on those long rucks or the missions even, granola is one of the big things that they take because it doesn't spoil and it lasts quite a while. So
awesome. That's actually really good to hear. That's fantastic. Another good option is jerky and protein powders, just because you do need to have protein. Just like here in the gym, you need to be able to supplement with protein so that your muscles can build. You also need protein in your daily life just for proper cellular function. So just because you're going through a natural disaster doesn't mean you shouldn't have protein. So having that on hand in easy sources and easy ways to consume like jerky or protein powders is a really, really good option.
Yeah, and if it's one of those things, protein powders won't go bad for a long period of time, so you can buy your own container specifically for this and basically buy 2 containers the first month, and then every month buy a new container and cycle it out of your storage for catastrophes. This way you always have one on hand, it never goes bad, and it's always in there a month at a time, a month in advance, so you're prepared for at least 30 days of protein needs.
That is an awesome tip. Yeah, absolutely.
And you have plenty of water around you to make the shakes.
Oh, don't do that. Please don't do that.
Don't use the water.
That's terrible.
It's a horrible choice.
Yes.
Although Darwin.
Well, talking about water is another really good thing to keep on hand. There are water filtration systems. Now you don't have to get crazy or anything like that, but there are little filtration systems that you can purchase to be able to protect yourself. Boiling, of course, is a very, very good way of keeping yourself safe when it comes down to you not having any fresh water. You can boil that water to get rid of the bacteria and things like that that might be in there that would get you sick.
Yeah, and that was one of those things, like, growing up, we didn't care about the BPAs and things like that, and when you listen to this isn't so much for that optimal health, this is completely for survival. So if in your garage right now you have 2 or 3 2.5 gallon jugs and they're getting hot, well, it's better to have water that may be slightly contaminated by the chemical leaching from the plastic than to not have water. So go out to the store and get gallon jugs. You can even get glass bottles, glass gallon jugs. Leave them in your garage, and again, same thing with those. Every 6 months, rotate those out. Just because you want them to be as fresh as possible. Water doesn't go bad for about 5 years. So in theory, instead of rushing to the store to get water tomorrow and they say, hey, there's something going wrong, you could have 4 or 5 gallons just sitting in your garage waiting to go.
Like I said, we don't have to do this like doomsday prepper stuff, but I mean, just having this stuff on hand regularly for even minor emergencies would absolutely make a really, really big difference. What other foodstuffs would you guys recommend other than?
We mentioned jerky, granola, powders,
Nuts.
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 Nuts, yes. Fruit, nuts, any type of nuts. Almonds,
Absolutely.
walnuts, cashews.
You can also too, like military surplus stores actually have the MREs on hand,
Yeah.
so you can actually go and get some of those. Those are literally like that last resort, that backup. You know, you're not eating those every day, but you're eating those because you need 1,000 calories that's going to keep you sustained versus, you know, not knowing what to eat, and they're also sealed in plastic. So even if that were by chance to get wet, it's not going to contaminate the food.
Absolutely. Like those are specifically made for, you know, harsh conditions, situations in which, you know, regular foodstuffs is not available. So, I mean, it is still, you know, sustenance. It is still, you know, something to keep you going. So yeah, absolutely having that as a backup source just in case is a really good option.
Yeah. While this may not always be the healthiest decision or fit your macros, prepackaged foods such as boxed juices, Pop-Tarts, any prepackaged foods, we talked about granola already, along with protein powders. You can also have some energy bars with you. Trail mix is a super easy one to package up a lot of food. Peanut butter,
Peanut butter is a
things
good
of that
one.
nature. Yeah, very, very heavy, help keep you full a little bit longer.
And canned foods. I mean, really and truly, canned foods, so long as the cans are sealed properly, you should be okay. Same thing, kind of thinking about like the water. You rotate those out every 3 to 6 months. So, yes, some days you might have canned foods here and there just to get rid of your stock, but to still have that on hand. And Anthony made a really good point earlier when we were all chatting together, is to make sure to have your can opener in a bag where your cans are, so that way you're not searching for it, or even just put all your canned goods that you want to have for, you know, safety purposes, set it in a specific container with the can opener in there so that you don't have to do unsafe things to be able to get these cans opened.
That, and just going along with the idea of sealing off all of your stuff. Having food items that are either like cans, where they're sealed off completely from the outside environment, Ziploc bags, things of that nature, things that pop open and closed. Trying to keep your food as clean as possible, especially in the event of something like a hurricane, is going to be your safest bet for, you know, not getting sick, eating what you think is good food.
Yeah, and that's another thing, because if it's sealed and it's yours and you're stuck in your house or anything else, it's better than like finding something outside that you don't know where it came from, where it floated from, or anything else. I mean, as bad as that sounds, depending on how long your disaster lasts, you may have a neighbor who had the same idea and has a bag of trail mix that's just opened, and you don't want to like be like, hey, I want some of this, because you may be hanging out with your neighbor, he may be a clean dude, but if he's got contaminated water in there, you're both about to get real sick.
And really and truly, you want to be careful about making sure that you don't get sick, because then you cause more problems in the long run for yourself.
Someone may have peed in the water.
Oh,
Also
that's
true.
terrible.
Or probably peed in the water.
Yeah.
That's
You gotta
That's
know
more
who's
likely.
peeing in
That's
the
gonna
water,
be
too.
sewage and everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
So Anthony was talking about duration of a disaster. The biggest advice I could say is don't underestimate the power of freezing food. If you have things refrigerated, try to keep them below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, but keep in mind how much longer perishable foods are going to last if you freeze them. So try to have food that you're going to have for maybe the next 2 or 3 days unfrozen, and then freeze the rest, because you want to have a good supply that's not going to go bad. And just take it out of the freezer a day in advance, so you have food for the next day.
Yeah, and that's if, you know, absolutely, if you have power. If you don't have power, if you know something is going to happen and you want to try to keep your food safe, you don't know how long your power is going to be out for, you can always take food from your fridge and put it into the freezer to freeze it. Now, if your freezer is full and you've lost power, the food in your freezer, if it is full, will last usually about 48 hours. If it is half full, it might last about 24 hours. So just be aware of that. If you lose power, do not go opening and closing your doors to your refrigerator. You want to try to keep that food good for as long as possible. And if you don't get power back within 2 to 3 days, all of that food needs to get thrown away. Please do not eat that, because bacteria and things have a higher incidence of growing within specific temperatures. And if that temperature has dropped significantly, you're increasing your risk of getting sick.
Yeah, and on that point, like we talked about before, people run out and buy bags of ice and things like that to be prepared. But your best bet would actually be going out and buying bags upon bags of like frozen vegetables, because if you do have fruit in your fridge, you can actually take those frozen vegetables, jam them into your fridge from the freezer, obviously, and they'll serve as your ice, something that you can eat if anything does spoil. They're also contained, so they're not going to get bacteria on them if there is something in your fridge that has spoiled because it's been in there too long.
Even
That's
your
very
food is huddling up to survive.
Yep.
But that's true. That's another very good point, is that if you know something is going to happen, you can actually freeze, like the little, freezer packs that you put in your lunch, or fill, baggies or containers with water and freeze them and then put them into your fridge to help to keep your food colder longer.
Let everyone else go get gasoline and just pick up all the dry ice and ice that you can get.
Dry ice is a
Sure.
very good thing to have. Yeah, if you are going to rush out and go get something dry, know where to get dry ice.
And then, don't forget to take care of your pets. Big things that you should be doing anyhow. Take your dog food, cat food out of the plastic bag that you get it in, or paper bag that you get it in, and put it into a plastic container. Because if there is a flood, that plastic container will float to the top, and then you don't have to worry about feeding them because their food is right there, and it's going to be dry, and it's going to be portable. Because again, if it is, half full, it'll float. So those big, 10-gallon containers, or the hell they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like from Snapware too. Like
Yeah.
I like the Snapware containers. We're not sponsored by Snapware, but their stuff
Yeah.
is amazing.
And Stephanie had a point before we started. She was saying like she has a bag that's set to go. Big thing to do there is, yes, have a bag that's ready to go, but put a plastic garbage bag inside of that bag, because that'll keep everything that's in that bag dry. So if you need your maps, if you need lighters, if you need matches, anything like that, you put it in there. Shotgun shells.
Hey, zombie
But
apocalypse.
yeah, zombie apocalypse. But you can also use that same bag for your important stuff, like your passport, cash, pictures that may be on a USB drive, CDs with videos of the family, things that you may need to grab. It's going to be a completely sealed bag. Put a Ziploc bag in there so you can load other stuff in there, seal it up, and then at no point will it break or leak.
So yeah, once upon a time, I had this like wild hair at my butt, and I wanted to become a doomsday prepper because I had nothing better to do. And so I have backpacks. I do. I have backpacks at home that you don't have to be this dramatic, I promise. But yeah, you can have backpacks with like 3 days worth of food, water, long burn candles, maps. Keeping things dry is very important. Your personal information in case something happens, that if everything is destroyed in your house, you have copies of things. And I have a bag for my cats as well, just in case. That way they have food and things like that. If I have to leave in a hurry, I don't have to pack things. I already have stuff ready. I can just grab it and go.
Yeah, and that's most people probably have safes. Some people do. If you have a safe, it's probably a fire safe, because those are the ones that most people buy. But in your fire safe, you should have that Ziploc bag with all your personal information, spare backup, whatever you need, so that it's ready to go. Because in case of a flood or in case of a storm, you can get to your safe real quick, get inside of it and whatever else. And if it is a storm and there's something on fire, you can actually leave everything there, go back to your house, and that bag will still be inside the safe, completely undamaged.
So as far as food stuff, so we've got kind of ideas as far as stuff to keep on hand, but is there any other ideas that you guys would have as far as like maybe to be able to cook foods or anything else?
Sternos, yeah, those feeding cans. That's a lot of caterings you'll see use those to keep the food warm whenever they're out on the tables getting served. So you can always cook some beans, because beans can serve a lot of people, and it's kind of like a complete everything: proteins, fats, carbs. Rice, just again, you're thinking survival, so you want things that are going to grow or cook in bulk. Besides the jerky and all that stuff, because that stuff just you can eat whenever you need to. I still think though that the secret weapon is fasting.
Yeah.
It's survival. You don't have to eat 3 times a day or 2 snacks. You should probably just eat once or twice, and it should be a lot smaller, so that 3-day food pack that you have stored up might last a week. So fasting could be your best friend.
That's a good point. I think if you don't know how long it's going to last, you need to portion out how much you're gonna have a day. Because if you're just eating when you're hungry, oh shoot, there's all my food.
Yep.
Yeah,
You're
that's
stressed
very
out,
true.
and people tend to eat when they stress out, and
Mhm.
you just had you have a house underwater, so probably gonna eat.
Probably gonna be
Yeah.
stressed.
Yeah.
Just touch.
Yeah.
Talking about house underwater, if your food does become contaminated with floodwater, don't eat it. Cool? Cool. All right.
Just consider it a loss.
Just
Yeah.
throw it
Yeah,
out.
Don't think you can wash it off and it'll be okay.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't
It's gonna
cut that
absorb
out.
it.
Absolutely. All right. So I think that was a lot of really good information. I think that's fantastic. So kind of take that. I know it's not going to help very much to prep for what's already happened, unfortunately, and we do want to wish the families and everything that are experiencing losses, the best. And here at Lifetime, we are actually doing a little donation drive for Hurricane Harvey. So if you guys have anything, please bring it. We will be more than happy to get it down to where it needs to be. So toiletries and things like that, baby clothes, diapers, things along those nature.
Pop-Tarts.
Hey, Pop-Tarts,
I mean,
absolutely.
at this point, anything, literally.
Absolutely.
Survival.
Survival. So if you guys have anything, please feel free to bring that by and we will get that to where it needs to go. But we want to thank you very much for tuning in today. I hope that you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week, and we will be talking to you soon.
Thanks for checking us out. If you like this, go ahead, like it, share it, subscribe. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram.